What's going on YouTube? It's Andreas here from Symmetry 4-Wheel Drive, and as always, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm pretty stoked, pretty excited, because we are going to be installing our first accessory onto our front runner Slimline 2 roof rack that we recently installed on the 80 series Land Cruiser. And that accessory is a big one and an exciting one. It is going to be a front runner easy out awning, and that is specifically the 2.5 meter long one. Now, front runner's awning isn't one of those wraparound 270 degree or 360 degree or 180 degree awnings. It's one of those simple, straight out, retract back in awnings, and I'll get more in depth into the reasons why I chose that awning, but the main one was weight. Now, if I compare it to other awnings on the market, let's say for instance the Alucab shadow awning or something like that, those weigh around 25 kilos, and I like to wheel my car not just overland and travel and things like that, and I don't want 25 kilos hanging off at the highest point of the vehicle on those angles that I already feel quite nervous about when you're leaning and pitching on the side. So that's one of the main reasons why I went with this front runner awning, is it only weighs around 12-13 kilos, something like that. So let's say half of what some of those bigger 270 degree awnings weigh. So without getting too in depth into the awning and the choice and all of that, let's dive right into the video and we'll get into the details. So one of the reasons, like I mentioned, of going with this front runner awning is firstly the weight, and then secondly is just the overall aesthetic and functionality that the front runner awning has over my previous Easy Awn 2000 series that came with the 80 series when I bought it. The Easy Awn is a little bit heavier, it's not quite as easy to set up, it's a bit more of a rudimentary design, so to speak. It's not quite as well thought out as the front runner one in terms of its setup and its functionality, as well as the accessories that you can add to it later on down the line. And I think overall I am very focused on how things work on the 80s in terms of their functionality, but I also am a fan of aesthetics, and I like my cars and my rig to look good. I'm not going to hide that fact, and I think the front runner just overall was a better choice. A huge part of this install is also going to be the quick release brackets. Now that is cool if I want to take the awning off when I don't want that extra weight up high when I'm wheeling and things like that, so I'm excited to fit those as well. So the first step for us is to just acquaint ourselves with all of these components that make up the quick release bracket kit, and then the actual first step is determining which orientation these brackets will fit onto our awning. So if we just turn the awning over, you'll see this extruded mounting portion of the awning. We can have these brackets either facing vertically like this or horizontally like that, and we are going to mount ours horizontally to be more of a sleek flush fitment. So now the next step after determining the orientation of our brackets on the awning, we are now going to assemble the catch onto this bracket. I assembled one of these just to get my head around how it needs to get assembled. It is very simple, so we can take this one and do it together. And what we need to do is take this bolt, which is a M8 by 30 carriage bolt. So in the square that's cut out on the back of this bracket, that will interface with this square on the carriage bolt that stops it from turning and allows you to fully tighten it. So we'll insert that through the back, put our other bracket on the front of it, then we will take this, what do they call it, a bobbin, yes, this male bobbin, then the female bobbin, and then we will put a M8 nylock nut on that. So we will just finger tight that. Then we will place this M8 by 16 buttonhead cap screw through the back, and then take a M8 nylock nut and tighten that on there. So that simply is the assembly for these brackets. I will just quickly nip this up. So at this point in time, we won't fully tighten the nut that holds on the bobbins. We will just tighten up the M8 buttonhead cap screw, and I will just do that to 20 Newton meters using my torque wrench, just to make sure that that is torqued up. So now we have these two brackets assembled, then we can move on to the next step, which will be loosely fitting these to the mounting rail at the back of the awning. So I noticed when reading further ahead in the instructions, to mount these brackets to the railing on the back of our awning, we use the M6 by 20 or M6 by 16. I think it is M6 by 16 bolt, and it has provision to use 2 of these bolts to mount it to your awning, but I see that there's provision for 4 bolts. So I just dug around in my bag of extra bolts and found some more M16 by 16 bolts and nylock nuts and washers and nut caps. So I'm going to be putting 4 bolts in these brackets instead of just 2, because I think that will give a more stable mounting point, and I'm not quite sure why Front Runner show just to mount 2 bolts per bracket, but yeah, when I look on this figure in the instructions, it shows 4 bolts mounting it to the railing on the awning, but they only supply you, according to the manifest or parts list or items in the box, they only supply you 4 M16 bolts, not 8. So I just got some extra bolts, and I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is there, but for a more sturdy mounting point, I'm going to be using 8 bolts. So we have this mounting channel at the back of the awning, and that's where we will mount these brackets to the Front Runner awning. So if you have a look here, this is the front and that is the back with the channel. So what we're going to do is just take off this end cap on the aluminium extrusion channel. So I'm just going to get my screwdriver and take off this end cap. So this is that plastic end cap at the end of the extrusion. So what I'm going to do is insert these M6 hex head bolts. So now we can place our brackets on these slots over the bolts. Next, we can take our M6 washers and place them over the bolts. Then we can put our nuts just finger tight on there. Now we can pop this plastic end cap back over the extrusion. There we go. And now we have both of our quick release mounting brackets loosely mounted to the back of the awning. So you might be wondering why I got this other quick release kit alongside the quick release awning mount kit that I already got, and that is so that I can put this bracket kit on both sides of the car in case I quickly just want to move the awning from one side of the car to the other, as opposed to driving your car around to change where the awning comes out. So we are just checking now that the brackets that mount onto your roof rack on the vehicle, that this slot that then interfaces with the bobbins, that there is enough space in between the bobbins clamping for this bracket to fit snugly with no excessive play. So you want these tight but not overly tight. I'm just going to tighten these up ever so slightly. So this one is a little bit too tight. I'm going to loosen that ever so slightly. That fits nice and snugly now with no excessive play. So that fits nice and snugly, which means we can now move to mounting these brackets on the vehicle. So here we are at the roof rack on the 80 series. The first thing to note about mounting the brackets to fit the quick release awning bracket kit is that it needs to be in line with a slat, and it uses the bottom button head cap screw as one of the mounting bolts for the bracket. So that bracket would go over there, and this bolt will become part of the mounting bolt for the new brackets. So we are going to start getting those installed now. I was looking on the instructions trying to think where do they get the other mounting bolt to, and it doesn't explicitly say in the instructions that you use one of the standard slat mounting bolts. That's why I was just a bit confused, but now I figured that out, and now we can install it. The first thing that we are going to do is insert one of our M8x16 hex heads screws into the top rail of the standard slat. Then we are going to untighten that M8 button head cap screw that holds on. I just need to get a wrench to undo this bottom screw. So now we can place the quick release bracket over where we removed that bolt, and we'll just finger tight this bolt back in at the bottom here. Then next we will insert 2 of these M8 nylock nuts into the nut slot of the roof rack. We will then place the other bracket over this bracket. We will then take 2 washers and put this on top of the bracket. We'll take our button head cap screws. I'll then take another nylock nut and place that over our hex head screw on this side of the bracket. So now we have everything mounted just finger tight. I'm going to move on to the other bracket and then we can come back and tighten it all up. So I've got both brackets loosely finger tight on the vehicle. Now I can torque up all the bolts. So I'm going to do 20 Newton meters on each of these bolts. One side done, now for the other side. Both sides tight. So I measured on the vehicle the space between the 2 brackets to mount so that I can roughly move these brackets into the right position, put it on the car and then tighten it up there so that I know exactly where the awning is going to sit. So now I have the brackets spaced how I would like them. I'm going to now move to fitting it on the vehicle. So I'm just going to grab the awning and then put it on the brackets using those bobbins into these slots on the awning brackets. So with the awning loosely on, I just made sure that those bobbins slotted into the slots on the brackets. Now I can see how it fits and shuffle the awning along as I would like it to sit on the vehicle. So I've got the awning where I want it now. Now I can tighten those M6 bolts on the back of the mounting surface of the awning. So there's 4 bolts per mount, the 2 extra per mount that I added over and above what front run is supplied. We're just going to take our 10mm ratchet spanner and just tighten all of those up. So for the quick release system, this is the latch that secures it to the car. So it secures the awning to the vehicle, the roof rack, the mounting plate. So you simply put that latch over into this recess that is provided for it, and then you just clamp it down, and that provides a solid mount to the vehicle. And you can put a split pin through there or something like that to keep it secure and that it doesn't rattle loose. And then to take your awning off, you simply undo the latches, and then you can lift your awning off like that. So you can put it back in there and then latch it, and then vice versa, take it off. So that's a nice, simple, quick and easy method that Front Runner have come up with a solution for quickly removing and installing your awning on your vehicle. So the last step that we need to do on this side of the awning is just put our nut caps, our plastic nut caps, on all the exposed nuts that we have from the install rather. So now that we have the quick release brackets and the awning installed on the Land Cruiser, I'm just going to do the last step, which is installing the other set of quick release brackets on the other side of the roof rack. So that is just in case I want to move the awning from one side to the other for whatever reason, or when I'm at camp or out four-wheel driving, wheeling, anything like that. If I want the awning on the other side quickly, I can just mount it on the other side with these brackets already installed. So I'm just going to mount and install these brackets on the other side of the roof rack, and then we are complete with the install of this awning quick release mounting kit. That is going to wrap up our install video of this Front Runner Easy Out 2.5 meter awning, as well as the quick release bracket kit for awnings. Now overall, I'm very stoked on how the whole install went and how it works on the vehicle. I think that functionally it's a great awning, and it's nice and easy to use, and more importantly than anything else, it's lightweight, which was my major sort of constraint and factor when choosing this awning, was to find something as lightweight as possible, because I personally don't like to drive with my center of gravity super high on the car. Yes, it's a big tall Land Cruiser, it doesn't have the best COG, but I like to keep as much weight off of the roof as possible. So instead of going with a 270-degree awning that weighs 20-25 kilos, something like that, I went with this lightweight Front Runner 12.5, 13 kilo awning with its quick release bracket kit. I think the quick release brackets are super useful, that you can just take it on and off the vehicle as you please. If you're not going to be using it and you want to go wheeling and don't want that extra weight, you can just plop it off. I also put those other brackets on the other side of the roof rack so that I could swap around the awning if I so chose to, and I'm just overall super stoked with it. So I think, yeah, that kind of sums up everything that I wanted to show you on this awning. I'll obviously give you a bit more of a rundown once I've gotten to put the awning through its paces and used it a bit more in harsh weather conditions, strong winds, strong sunlight, and even rain and all of that stuff. So once I've tested it more, I'll definitely give you my feedback and review on that. And just ending off, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel if you like this kind of content, and any views, shares, likes, anything like that is always much appreciated. Please subscribe, and we'll see you again soon for some more Symmetry 4-wheel drive missions. Let's show you what this awning looks like.